It is, it's 6:01. We're going to have the review meeting that has been called relative to the property tax issues that have been raised. We're going to have a discussion here today. We are streaming live so that everybody in the public that wants to view can watch and hear what we're talking about. The one thing I would caution is this is not a session to try to figure out what to do about the real property taxes in the state of Ohio. We're talking about what the city can do relative to the residents here. And I'm going to go ahead and ask Jeff to at least, Councilman Creed, to frame at least the issue that he asked be raised here at this particular meeting.
So in the city of Chiillicothe, we saw an approximate 29% increase in property tax valuations. Those differ based on the individual property. And so what we wanted to discuss tonight is, as a city, we've got financial obligations. We've got the loss of the paper mill, the income from that. And we know that we can use that money, that there's places that money can definitely be used to help police and fire, different things like that. But we also understand that there's a responsibility to our taxpayers to not overly burden them in 1 year with a 29% increase in their property taxes. As I say that, we realize that the city's portion is a small portion. It's 3.2 mils. For the average homeowner that owns a $200,000 house, that's about a $64 increase annually. But as we say that, we know that can be a lot of money for some people. So we want to discuss being responsible and finding if we can reduce that slightly or some of that, still address the concerns that the city has. It goes to pay for police and fire pensions and different things within other departments. Our costs go up about 3% a year. So I think a reasonable goal for us to look at is maybe looking at over the last 3 years, if we averaged a 3% increase, what that would look like without burdening the residents with a 29% increase in 1 year. So right now the city brings in, the city is projected from the county to bring in $1.722 million next year in property tax. This increase that's projected would be around $500,000. So I want to open up that discussion. I don't know if Crystal wants to kind of talk about where that money is spent, just to give us a little bit better idea before we kind of get into the detail of what we want to do.
May I just interject? Are these estimates that we're talking about here? Okay, all right, because I know at some point we'll have better numbers, but go ahead.
So I did send out to all the council members, and I brought in a couple copies. I didn't bring a copy for everybody because I wasn't sure how many people would be here, but you all do have this in your email. I sent out a copy of what the income tax breakdown is. So we receive the income tax in two different, hold on, I'm trying to find in two different times throughout the year. And then portions of it go to the property tax, which is in the general fund. And then some of it goes into the police and fire pension fund. So the gross amount goes into those funds, but then there are expenditures taken out for different things like advertising, auditor and treasurer fees, election fees, mowing and cleaning that's been assessed to different properties. So that's how it's broken out. You did get that in your emails if you have any questions on that. I also sent out a lot of stuff. So, and some of it may not even be necessary for tonight's discussion, but I'll go ahead and run through kind of what I sent out. I sent out an example draft calculation sheet. That was the first thing that was attached. And that is definitely a draft. I did try to connect with the county auditor today to see if they had the true valuation of what this property will be, and they do not have that number until the end of next month. So once we get that number, we would be able to calculate this a lot a lot more accurately. And then we included a breakdown of all the property tax, where it goes, that I just discussed. I attached this resolutions for both 2023 and 2024 for the city. That shows how much is currently going into the general and police fund. And then the one that I attached for 2025 shows what it will be next year, which is the 1.72. And then I attached a copy of the county resolution that shows how they went about doing their decrease in their mills. And then I attached the rate scales and the 2024 tax valuation. Any questions on that so far? I know that was a lot of information that was sent out.
And are we talking about the non-voted millage?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So, like Crystal discussed, these are approximate values that are based on the assessments that have been done by the Rouse County Auditor's Office. They are required to raise this amount per the state to get property tax values up to a certain level within Ross County. So as they adjust things up and down, we will come in at about the same number. It's not going to move around a whole lot. So I just open it up for discussion as far as, should we accept all of the money? Should we rebate half of it? Should we rebate 2/3 of it? 2/3 of it would allow us to capture about somewhere between 9.5%, which is about 3% a year for the last 3 years. And then we can come back next year and reevaluate and see what we do at that point. That lowers that increase by 2/3 to the property owner if we do that. And I think the state has looked at some similar type things that they're working on. So I'm not saying that's the answer, but I just kind of want to open it for discussion and see what anybody else thinks about that as well.
Yeah, I do think there needs to be a balance. As far as, you discussed the shutdown of Pixel obviously affecting the city. And so you when you said 2/3, you're talking about the 67% reduction, right?
Reduction on the increase, correct.
And so I think you would look at somewhere between the 50% and the 67%, because you do want to offset some of the loss from Pixel, obviously. Does anyone else have anything as far as?
I agree. I think with, like you said, with Pixel, I think we got to do what we can for the people. And this is a small step, really.
So would you be in favor of reducing the millage to offset 2/3 of that increase?
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
I just kind of want to make sure that.
I was thinking more along the lines of 50%, but if other people think differently, that's fine.
My thought on the 2/3 is that would mean we would realize about between a 9 and 9.5% increase, which that's the first increase in 3 years. So that would be about a 3% increase annually over the last 3 years. And I think that's a reasonable increase. Our costs go up for providing police and fire and other services throughout the community at 3 to 4% a year. So that helps us keep pace with those growing costs that we have. But also realizes that we don't want to see that large increase on our residents, especially those who may be struggling.
But let me just ask this question, because I'm not a tax lawyer, but here's the question. Question is, we're going to reduce the millage, so somebody whose property taxes don't go up at all, they're essentially going to get a reduction, right?
That's correct.
If their value doesn't go up, they're going to get a reduction, and then people who have bigger increases, then the reduction in the millage will be a different. That's what everybody to understand. It won't be an across the board exact percentage for people, because once we reduce the millage, it will be based upon the value increase, and the value increase will vary from houses to houses based upon when the evaluation was done, when the sales may have taken place, and all that. Just so we understand, so that you understand that not everybody will just get the same percentage reduction in this. I just want to be clear on that. And if that's incorrect, let me know, but I think that's right.
No, that's absolutely correct. So you would take the new valuations, and by decreasing the millage, everybody across the board, whether if it's residential, commercial, industrial, would have that lower millage on their new taxed value.
And the new tax value, the 29% we're talking about increase is an average across all properties. Is that correct?
It's a 29% average increase on residential, approximately 36% on commercial, and there's a larger one on industrial properties.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear to everybody, because you could get confused and think that everybody's going to get the same percentage reduction no matter, or a same percentage increase, but that isn't quite the way that would work.
Anybody else? Kathy, you're looking down this way. Go ahead and push. We're live streaming, so if you could push that. So.
Well, I'm just trying to make sense of all of it to make sure that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we can't pay the bills because of it. And it would be interesting to me to know how many of the people that were, when Pixel closed, actually live in the city. Do we have that figure?
Approximately 200, about 25% of the employees lived within the city. About 400 of the employees, or about 50%, lived within the county.
Okay. I just thought that would be an interesting comparison on it. That's all the thoughts I have on it at the moment.
Yeah, and I know this impacts them, but it also impacts other people throughout our community who are, struggling to make the day-to-day payments. So, we may not think that, on a $600,000 or $200,000 house, that $64 a year is a whole lot of money, but to some people that is right now. And so we want to try, I think we want to try to offset some of that. And I guess the question is, if that's what we want to do, what percentage do we want to offset? I'm kind of in the ballpark of offsetting 67% of it, or 2/3 of it. And Crystal gave us that number on the one paper. To do that would be reducing our millage from 3.2 to 2.62. Is that correct, Crystal?
Yes, but there's something that I didn't take into consideration when I came up with that mills was the police and fire pension. So we want to keep that at the 0.3 for each one of those items. So that will change that mills than that number right there. Because we want to make sure that we sustain that. We don't want it to be changed, that part of it.
Why we would still see an increase in that? Why would we not want to reduce that as well?
I don't know that we want to reduce the police and fire pension contribution that we receive for that.
It wouldn't be reducing. We just wouldn't realize the full gain. We would get
Right.
the amount that we're getting, that they already projected, plus another 10% with a 2/3 reduction. We just wouldn't get a full 29% on that. So it wouldn't go backwards.
No, it definitely would not go backwards. And I guess it doesn't really matter. You could either do the full across the board 3.2, or we could break it out and just do the 2.6 like it's broken out on our resolution. I guess it doesn't really matter. It would just be less that would be going into police and fire pension fund, which is going to come from the general fund anyways.
I
So-
just think it's cleaner to do it across the board, because we're still going to realize a 10% gain in both of those funds, or a 9.5% gain in both of those funds, just like we would in the general fund. So we're still going to see an increase above what we're currently getting. We would just not see a 30% increase. And I mean, myself and Julie and Greg all being prior safety services, we know that's important, but I think we need to be responsible with our taxpayers as well. Thoughts?
Let me just say this. Obviously, everybody here wants to help the taxpayers, so I think that's important. I don't think there's any issue about that. I have sent this as an assignment to committee too. So after we have this meeting tonight, this will go to committee, to safety, or to finance, technology, to have another hearing on this. And at that point in time, there'll be another opportunity, but everybody can take a look at the numbers between now and whenever that meeting is, so that everybody feels comfortable with the numbers. Because I can see how this could be confusing, but I think, from a standpoint of trying to do the right thing, I think everybody wants to do that. It's just a question of making sure that they get a chance to look at these numbers and have any questions answered that they might want to have answered. But I also don't want to put anybody on the spot on the timing of when this needs to get done. So you're going to have final numbers later in November, probably, Crystal?
The county auditor said that they should have their final valuation by the end of next month.
Okay, so you'd have those numbers, but in the meantime, Councilman Creed could have his have a committee meeting and talk about what kind of percentage you're looking at, and then you'd be ready to go with the new numbers, and you'd know exactly what the new numbers are going to look like at that point in time, I would guess. Is that fair?
I think we need to look at it really closely because, we have lost income too, and what we don't want to do is find ourselves having not enough money for maybe repairs with the water department, or we have to have some of those things. I'd like to study it a little bit more. I'm all for, I live in the city of Chiillicothe. I'm all for a tax decrease if we can, but I also don't want to find us in a situation where we're heading toward the red and we can't keep up with the demands just for basic services because of it. So, and I don't know that would happen, but right now I would feel a lot more comfortable studying it more before we decide whether it's a 50% or a 2/3 cut. I do think we need to do a cut, though.
Okay, and just for the record, none of this money goes to utilities, water or sewer. Those are both enterprise funds that operate separately. So this only impacts general fund.
Okay.
Not the water and sewer department.
Okay, I wasn't thinking about along those lines.
Right, yeah, so it does not affect those at all. Those are all fee-based. So everybody, what other information does anybody need, or do you have questions tonight that myself or Crystal can try to answer?
Okay, I know the townships have been approving stuff. This is on the same line as what the townships has been doing. And am I correct? All the townships has approved to do this?
Not all, I think 12. I'd have to look to see.
Okay. 12 out of 14? Okay. Okay. I was just want to make sure that I'm totally understanding that.
I've got information that I received was 12 out of 16 townships had done some sort of reduction. I don't know what level they did.
Yeah, I was under the impression that it was residential only, so it looks like we're doing that across the board. Commercial, residential,
No, when you do a millage decrease, that millage is across the board. So when the townships do it, it is across the board. When the county does it, it is across the board. It affects residential, commercial, and industrial, and agricultural, everything. My understanding is you cannot separate that out, and that's the information I got from the county auditor. Unless somebody is able to show me something different, my understanding that the cuts are across the board for everybody.
Do we have any idea, or could we find out what those townships did in the way of their decreasing the amount? I mean, do we have a list of that anywhere?
I think the county was the only one I think that we had.
The county did a reduction of 30% on their millage.
Okay. But you said the townships also did something differently?
Each township did something different. I could not even try to gather that information and tell you what each one of them did.
Okay.
And I think for us, it's important to look at because I think each public entity is different. The county is probably in a little bit better financial position than what the city is. So they can more afford a full cut. For us, that's a little bit more of a challenge with the loss of the paper mill. But like you said, we need to do something to help our residents while at the same time being fiscally responsible and making sure that we can do the things we need to do as a city. So I think realizing some of those gains without realizing all of them and putting all that burden on our residents is a good thing to do. We just got to figure out where that place is. But yeah, like I said, each township is different. I don't know the financial position of each township. I would never assume that all of them can afford to do a full cut. But I can assume that all of them can afford to do a full cut, so each government entity out there is in a different financial position, and what they choose to do, I think, is up to them. And what we choose to do is really on us to kind of figure that out.
So at this point, what I'm going to suggest is this is going to go to committee. Everybody has the information that's been provided. If everybody can take a look at that and try to get back with any questions that you have to Auditor Spetnagel, if you have specific questions about the financial part of it, or you could get back to Councilman Creed as the chair of the Finance Technology Committee. And at that point in time, I think everybody will have a better feel. And once again, please don't feel surprised that you're overwhelmed. The state legislature has been trying to solve problems with this issue for years, and they haven't gotten it done. So I think we just need to take a good look at it, but get all the information that you need and get the questions answered, and then we can move forward. But I think there's certainly a sentiment to try to do something to help here. So are there any other questions of anyone? Hearing none, then we'll close this review meeting and look forward to our committee meeting where this will be addressed. So thank you all for coming tonight.